Good afternoon, welcome to the UK Column News. It is the 17th of December 2014 and it's just gone 1 o'clock. Myself, Louise Collins, Brian Gerrish and Nick are here in Plymouth, and we have a guest sitting in with us today, and it's the one and only Alex G. So Alex is here to...
Sitting quietly for
Sitting
a
very
change.
quietly, yeah. Is it public knowledge about what's happening tonight?
Well, Alex is going to be at the monthly UK Column meeting.
Christmas party.
And we're going to have a little Christmas social, and there'll be a little bit of a Doom Watch at the same time. So we've got to have fun at some time or other because we need it. So it's grey, windy and horrible. We're not going to say anything more about the weather in UK, but we'll get straight into what's happening politically and events unfolding very, very quickly. Well, Guido Fawkes is probably the man to start with, and encourage you to go and visit this site. He's got a very interesting article here about Shadow Work and Pension Secretary Rachel Reeves, who's been warning since September that millions of people are stuck in part-time employment. But Guido and his team just happened to pick up an advert where she is advertising an exciting opportunity to be her new political advisor, but unfortunately you will only be working for 2.5 days a week.
How much pay packet, though, do you get with 2.5 days? These people usually get quite a good...
Well, it's probably 0 hours contract, okay. And really what we're looking at is sheer hypocrisy. So if we elect these people to govern us and control us, we shouldn't be the slightest bit surprised at what they dish out. So Rachel Reeves, we don't think, is really very worried about people who haven't got full-time employment, feed the families, pay the mortgage. She'll be okay up there in Westminster. Nice little red dress, though. So propaganda, we probably should go straight to the BBC or for something worse.
Yeah, a lot worse. Okay, the BBC is about to release a CD entitled An Alternative Christmas with songs such as Slashed Wrists This Christmas, The Worst Christmas Ever, A Very Sorry Christmas, You'll Shoot Your Eyes Out. This album is produced by a company called Demon Music, who claim they are independent, but who are actually owned by BBC Worldwide. And BBC Worldwide chief executive is Mr. Tim Davie, whose annual salary is £670,000 a year, with an additional £230,000 bonus package. And interestingly, he's also chairman of Comic Relief and the Royal TV Society.
So this, I think we can bring a picture of this gentleman up on screen. Here you are. We always encourage people to go and look at the actual website.
Absolutely.
Because it's full of information.
I will just say one of the songs on this album is done by a group called the Pixies, and the song is called Holiday Song, and you can go and look up the lyrics. I wasn't going to put the lyrics up for people to see here, but it's basically about incest and masturbation. So lovely stuff coming via the BBC.
And remember, of course, this is the BBC that's active in all of the unstable countries. So whether it's Syria or Iraq or Afghanistan or Kazakhstan, the BBC's been in there helping those countries to install the right form of democracy in their own country. So, of course, the commercial arm of the BBC, political work, and if you're still not aware of BBC charity Media Action, do visit their website and just have a look at the political work the BBC charity is doing. Nick, if we can just bring Tim Davie back on screen.
He's working for, he was the chairman of Comic Relief as well. Now, wasn't it Comic Relief who was funding, putting the money raised into arms manufacturers and things like that for buying shares? I'm pretty sure
there
it was
some
Comic
strange
Relief.
Stuff going on,
yeah.
and also some questions about how much money was coming. But shortly before we came on air, I took the trouble to phone Demon Music, and I was actually put through to this gentleman, Dan Phelan, head of communications at BBC Worldwide, to ask him if he carried out a risk assessment, having put out a music CD including Suicide. Very strange phone line, and I'm going to say I think we were cut off with a mechanical fault, but when I posed the question, have you carried out a risk assessment, suddenly there was no more. Now I'm going to reassure viewers, because I was speaking to Mr. Phelan himself.
Not one of the Daleks?
Not one of the Daleks. So
right, okay.
I'm really not sure what's going on here, but when I did a quick bit of research into the head of communications UK, Here's what I found.
This is actual picture, is it? You haven't done this.
No, this is his detail on LinkedIn, and it says here, Dan Phelan, Head of Communications UK at BBC Worldwide, and we got a picture of a boy hiding behind a Dalek.
I thought you'd made that picture saying that he was a bit of a robot or something. No, he's done that himself.
He's done it himself, and I think we're now getting an insight into the maturity of the people running the commercial arm of the BBC.
And I see his Children in Need under there. Is that under his profile as well, is it?
It is. I haven't had anything in there, so that comes under his BBC data. Okay, so if the BBC is pumping some very mucky stuff into our homes, and of course dangerous material to be presenting to children, we're not sure whether they carried out a risk assessment, but we don't think so. Have a look at this one. This is the Express getting very excited because Jamie Dornan is going to be the muscly actor for a filming of 50 Shades of Grey. And in the article, it's very interesting that he went to somebody's private house to see a dominant at work with two submissives. But it's interesting that the former Calvin Klein model admitted he wasn't entirely comfortable greeting his family after the interesting evening. That's when he'd been viewing a bit of S&M. And going back to my wife and newborn baby afterwards, I had a long shower before touching either of them. So this man knows that the material he's dealing in is dirty, disgusting stuff. He felt he had to clean himself before he went from the dungeon to speak to his family. But what is he prepared to do? Make a film and pump it into the homes of people all over the country.
I mean, he has got a newborn baby and everything, and its benefit system's hard going. So he had to do what, I suppose that's what he can come back. He's had to do what he's got to do to support his family, maybe.
I don't think so.
No, I don't.
Okay. All right, we'll let you off with that one.
Thank you.
So we're getting the tone for Britain in 2014. If we wonder where the trouble is coming from, just have a look at the material pumped into our homes and families. But on the other hand, we can have a look at this man. And William Hague has suddenly started to set out options to give English MPs more power. And he's told the Commons that his plan is a fundamental issue of fairness for all the people of the United Kingdom. Just as the people of Scotland will have more power over their affairs, so it follows the people of England, Wales and Northern Ireland must have the opportunity to have a bigger say over theirs. And we're going to say, no, Mr. Hague, this is treasonous psychological manipulation to encourage people to unknowingly work and vote for the breakup of the United Kingdom. But note there that he's talking about England, Wales and Northern Ireland. So let's come in slightly different direction. Here he is again. And he said that what he'd published was a government command paper setting out 3 options to give English MPs more of a role in shaping issues. So this is more the language of kings, presumably David King Cameron. We are commanding the British public to do X, Y and Z. And he's also said that, we need to do something about this because he's got worried that anything less will prompt a rebellion. Ooh. Now, we wondered whether this might possibly be any form of lawful rebellion, or perhaps something else is going on here. And he is saying that he's allowing only English MPs or English and Welsh MPs to consider relevant bills during their committee and report stages. So he's skewing it across to the English MPs. But note what the Lib Dem plan is, to establish a grand committee of English MPs. Now, is that something to do with, well, we're going to say this. Is William Hague attempting to nudge people away from the correct use of lawful rebellion and grand juries?
Certainly sounds like it.
It's very interesting, isn't it? And the Telegraph runs a morning briefing profile, often some interesting stuff on it. Just have a look at this one. I'm not sure the significance of the headline, if you can read it on screen, but it's the banality of evil, spelled E-V-E-L. Message, I don't know. But if you have a look at the first line, it's saying the Conservatives are becalmed on a third of the vote. William Hague is talking about English votes for English laws. I think he's really pushing for the breakup of the union. And then, if you remember what we said about the Irish MPs, he's saying, well, whoa, hang on a bit. No, sorry, not Hague. The commentator on Hague is saying, well, hang on, we don't want to get too into giving Irish MPs freedom to determine their own laws and systems. So rank hypocrisy. And the last comment here, which I think is pretty on the button, it says this certainly isn't good for Conservatives or unionist principles. So how can we sum it up? What this man is doing is treason, which is promoting the breakup of the UK.
Definitely.
And what better way to cover your tracks than terrorist propaganda?
Okay, yeah. Never let a crisis of terror attack go to waste. Met Chief Bernard Hogan Howe is demanding 50 million extra to fund counter-terror operations and is claiming that 5 terror plots have been halted and 35 arrests have been made in the last 4 months. Speaking on LBC, he used the Sydney cafe siege to promote fear of terrorism by saying that extremists here were as dangerous as the Sydney gunmen. So every opportunity doesn't waste.
Yep, more money into counter-terrorism. So he says all these plots have been foiled, but where is the evidence? Has anybody actually seen any publicised, irrefutable evidence that these events took place? It's very easy to say, well, we foiled 2,000 terrorist incidents, but we're not actually going to tell the public what they were about because, well, the public doesn't need to know.
Yeah, exactly.
It's easy to be cynical doing what we're doing. So, with the police in mind, let's have a look at this story produced by The Express. Falkirk MP Eric Joyce denies assault charges. So a pretty heavy upfront headline. And it says that Eric Joyce has been charged with 2 counts of common assault and 1 count of criminal damage in connection with an incident in a London shop. Now, I'll add a bit on screen in just a second, but essentially the MP says that something happened in the shop, and he is the one that actually took the right action as a member of the public with regard to a young man.
Right.
But the young man later complains as to what the MP did, and the MP says, well, the next minute I'm being questioned by the police and told that because of my identity, the Crown Prosecution Service and the Metropolitan Police Press Office would be informed of the incident. And then he says, I understand the Metropolitan Police has now made the matter public. So there seems to be, whatever the reality of what happened, and we're waiting to find out, it's very interesting to see the Met Police rushing to publicise that, because in a minute we're going to be talking about Ben Fellows, the child abuse whistleblower. Well, when he was arrested, the police didn't actually want to tell anybody.
No.
So odd, isn't it? You've got an MP, they can't wait to get it in the press. But when we've got somebody blowing the whistle on child abuse, well, we want to just get him into the police station as quietly as possible.
And not let anyone know exactly where he is, which we're having problems with at the moment.
Absolutely true. So just bear in mind Mr. Eric Joyce there, and we'll bring you back to another Express article. And this is where they're talking about SNP activist Willie McRae. Again, it's been in the press a little bit over the past couple of weeks. Now, the article is saying that the evidence is building that this man was killed because he was closing in on paedophile rings. But the important thing is that this man was talking about paedophile rings within the Scottish judiciary. So the article's got a quote from a friend who's saying, Willie told me perhaps 2 or 3 years before his death that he'd come across information on this paedophile ring in the Scottish judiciary. He was appalled by it. He was aware of sexual abuse going on. There was no doubt about that. Now, this man was then found dead in a car. 2 shots had been fired, but it was apparently suicide. We just picked up on this, which is a Scottish academic, Alan Draper. I believe this man is a university professor specialising in ethics, and he was helping the Roman Catholic Church on issues to do with child abuse. But note what he says. He says we need a judge-led inquiry with statutory powers looking at who did what and why it was covered up by all institutions. That's not my grammatical error there. Governments throughout the UK are anxious about what will be revealed because it's pretty clear there have been cover-ups. I'm going to say we could be very cynical here and say, why would you want a judge-led inquiry into a paedophile ring, which we're going to say we know penetrates the judiciary in Scotland? Is this man naive? Is he seriously saying, well, the important thing is to get an inquiry going north of the border and the best person to head it is a judge? Or has common sense gone out the window? If the evidence is there historically that judges were implicated, the last person you want is a judge.
Yeah.
And sorry?
Oh, you got more?
Well, I just added to the top of that one. Let's remember the BBC article which we brought in yesterday. Public inquiry planned on historical sex abuse in Scotland. So just maybe the abuse that resulted in the death of this man will be part of that inquiry. Maybe,
or maybe not.
Possibly. So, sorry, there he is, Ben Fellows. And we're going to say it's very interesting because essentially this young man was arrested in secret. So he's been a very outspoken whistleblower on child sex abuse in the establishment at high levels of the political arena. Now, in the Birmingham Mail article here, there was a quote from the Met Police, and it said Benjamin Matthew Fellows was charged on the 15th of December with committing series of acts with the intent to pervert a course of public justice between November 14 and the 14th of December. Now, the key bit here is that when we had spoken to Westminster Police, that was yesterday morning, and we asked for information on their arrest, they didn't really know anything about an arrest. And then they said, well, no, it wasn't the West Midlands Police, it was the Met Police. But here in the Birmingham Mail article, it clearly says that police arrested a 40-year-old man at Birmingham International Airport at 20 to 1 in the morning on behalf of the Metropolitan Police. So we just add here that surprisingly, when we called, they claimed that they hadn't been involved in an arrest, and then suddenly it changes.
That was Monday night, wasn't it? Yeah, Monday night.
Yes, that was Monday night. And I'll add this bit in as well. So we're still based on the same Birmingham Mail story. So here was that statement again. And what I wanted to highlight is this bit. It says very clearly, committing an act, series of acts with the intent to pervert the course of justice, November the 14th and the 14th of December. Now, what's interestingly is that when we spoke to the Met, they told us that the offences were between the 1st of November and the 1st of December 2012.
Yeah. Just the same as Melanie, isn't it?
Well, that's what we put at the bottom of the screen there.
Oh, okay.
Why are the Met Police confused over the date of the alleged offence? And this is the same as Melanie Shaw, where Nottingham Police mysteriously didn't know what day the arson had taken place. So the police can arrest an MP and bang, it's in the press.
Yeah.
But when you arrest a child abuse whistleblower, it's all very secret, and then they get mixed up over the dates of the offence.
No, can I just point to say, we don't know where Ben is. Reports at first were coming out via his partner Hannah that he was in Wormwood Scrubs. That isn't the case. I've been on the phone to Wormwood Scrubs and Wandsworth. No one will let us know and tell us if he is there. We're also concerned because he flew directly in from Spain. He has no money for phone calls and anything. So I'm just concerned no one send any letters or anything at the moment until we can confirm exactly where Ben is and hopefully get hold of a prison number. So I'm going to write a letter to Wandsworth, to Ben, with his date of birth on, just asking can he forward on his prison number, so then we can get it out to everyone who wants to send Ben their well wishes.
So at the moment, we're very concerned for Ben because,
Yeah.
of course, Ben had stated publicly on many occasions that he was frightened of the action by Britain's police forces. He'd suffered some intimidating interviews. His family had been intimidated. And I know family members are still very fearful that the police are reacting around Ben Fellows. So if we just, we'll sort of put Ben Fellows just slightly to the side. We're just focusing on the police at the moment and saying how interesting it is that when the Metropolitan Police investigate child abuse issues in relation to people in positions of power, suddenly the people who've come forward to whistleblow are the people who are frightened. Well, we just had to bring up this. Exaro is a very specialised little media outfit which boasts that it runs leading stories that other papers don't cover. They've specialised in child abuse stories. I understand they're a mixture of retired journalists from other big mainstream papers and ex-police officers. But on the 17th of October 2013, they put out this story about Ben Fellows. And in it, they specifically state Exaro was able to prove that the accusations against Clarke, that's Mr. Ken Clarke, which had gained increasing currency on the internet, was simply wrong. And there was other articles, I believe, in which they said that we were able to help the police ascertain what the truth was. Now, we were stunned to receive a tweet this morning from Exaro News, which is going out to the wider public, saying, "People, Ben Fellows has been charged. He will face trial. No one should be tweeting, publishing anything about supposed guilt or innocence." Now, quite right, he's been charged. But our question is, why is Exaro tweeting instructions about Ben Fellows,
Exactly.
particularly if Exaro is involved, has been involved in the Ben Fellows case? So it's very, very interesting here. Of course, Ben Fellows has been charged, so that bit is correct, and there are rules apply with reporting. But why is it taking Exaro to speak out specifically to do with Ben Fellows?
It's really interesting.
We did call them, where we simply asked if they would give us a statement on why they'd put out this extraordinary tweet. The young lady who took the call was very polite, very helpful, but no one in Exaro wanted to speak to me.
I mean, there was the case, they put out a story about mistaken identity. That they had heard it was a case of mistaken identity, but who told them it was the mistaken? It was
We don't know.
No, we don't know.
We don't know. So we'll wait and see how that develops. But very interesting situation where we just wonder who exactly Exaro's working for. Well, bigger things, Mr. Putin under
Mr.
attack.
Putin. Now, this is just I'm just going to briefly skim over this, and I urge people to go and read the way the Washington Post have worded this article. But they're basically reporting that Russian central bank has raised interest rates from 10.5% to 17% in an attempt to stop the ruble falling any further. And I'm just going to say, the only comment I'm going to give, at the end of this article, they say checkmate, really poking a big stick at Putin. Really, it's a horrible article, but people just go and have a look and have a little read and see what you think of it. But Russia's in trouble. Russia is in big trouble.
Well, and where's that trouble come from? Well, let's pop across to the Mail, and here's the main bit. So we've got trouble in the in the Russian banks now, trouble in the economy. What's that going to mean? It's going to mean people losing jobs, unable to get savings, unable to feed themselves and their families. And we've got the British press absolutely gloating at the suffering in Russia, which has been clearly created by the corrupt international banking cartel. And of course, David Cameron hasn't done anything. He's the puppet. But the headline, Russia rocked by full-blown currency crisis, pressure of Putin as ruble crashes and interest rates are raised. They're gloating, and we know that this is a major propaganda article here by the Mail, because look at the quality of the graphics. We've got cartoon Putin with oil prices falling. This is the weapon. This is how they're causing the trouble. And then the big gloat here, this is the big fall in the ruble against the dollar, I think it is. And let's just remind ourselves, we've got David King Cameron will toughen sanctions until Putin changes approach. So this is David Cameron, the LibLab com that's been covering up torture, and David Cameron standing on the international stage with people starving in Britain, lecturing Putin on what he's been doing.
Disgraceful.
It's unbearable, isn't it, really?
It's foul. Can I just say on a lighter note, he looks like he's about to bubble his tights in that picture.
Well,
Sorry.
I see what you mean, but yes, okay.
Sorry.
So,
Okay.
well, what's going on elsewhere? We've got Obama will sign Russian sanctions bill despite reservations. So we've got Obama acting, as a dictator, really. What's he going to be doing? Well, the bill primarily sanctions Russia's defence industries and have been passed with overwhelming support in Congress. But Josh Earnest, spokesman, said the bill sent a confusing message to our allies, but Mr. Obama will sign it because it preserves flexibility. Well, it's right, and this is the other part of it here. The bill would also give Mr. Obama the authority to provide lethal and non-lethal military assistance to Ukraine, but it doesn't require him to do so. But if he needs to, he can simply pump in the weapons. In front of our eyes.
In front of our eyes.
Of course, we can look at it from a different direction.
We can look at it from so it may be. Well, we're going to come to a story in a minute about fuel prices falling, but here Ian said about it on my show, and he said it on Fracking Nightmare as well. That because of the falling cost of fuel, it means that the fracking energy firms are losing big business. And Forbes here are highlighting that since oil prices started dropping, the shares in shale gas are now starting to fall. And Ian has mentioned that many times over the last few weeks, and he's keeping an eye on the shale gas companies.
Isn't it fascinating that we've got the cartel of the fraudulent, corrupt international banks driving the oil rate, the oil prices,
neocons,
in order to put pressure on Russia? But oh dear, what's that done? It's actually putting a spanner in the works of the shale and fracking issue. So there was a report here on the price of fuel.
Yeah, well, this links into this.
Should we report this as good news for Christmas, that your petrol's going to be cheaper?
I'll get to that. Fuel prices are set to drop down to 99p, and already Asda have dropped their prices down to £1, 110 pence a litre. And the RAC are predicting that prices will plummet to 99p in the next few weeks, which is fantastic news in this country for motorists and those who are opposed to the fracking. But really, it's not so much good news as we were saying this morning, as you pointed out this morning, to make Russia fall. So, yeah, it's hitting the Russian economy. But it is, as we say, it's good news for Christmas.
Okay, well, we couldn't have a news today without a brief mention of Iraq and the Chilcot draft report. So the Times here reporting that it seems that the report that's been sent out to all the people who are really accused, they've been given it early. Seems fair to me. You don't give it to the public, you give it to the people who are implicated in all the troubles. But apparently it's been tougher than expected. So draft reports of the official inquiry into the Iraq war have sent shockwaves through Whitehall, with key players fighting to tone down or even delete the criticism contained in them. So it's going to be edited before the public see it. Much delayed report by Sir John Chilcot, runs to hundreds of pages, but it's been sent to those criticised for their conduct. So we're not seeing anything of substance now coming out of the British government. Lies, cover-ups, deceit, smokescreens. This is a government in political administration in trouble. But who's pulling these strings? Somebody's driving this, and of course the people with the real power are those bankers that we've mentioned in the last article. So pressure's coming on, and yet another inquiry coming to a head now, the Al Swedi inquiry about abuse at the UK Army base in Iraq. And well, here's the gentleman running it. Where are we? Chaired by a retired High Court judge, Sir Thane Forbes. and he oversaw the trial of serial killer Harold Shipman. And it's just saying the inquiry was named after 19-year-old Hamad al-Swedi. He was one of the Iraqi men said to have been unlawfully killed while in the custody of British troops. So it's fascinating that Theresa May can't get an inquiry off the ground into child abuse. Delay over child abuse, delay over child abuse, and now it's nicely being buried because we've got the al-Swedi report, we've got the torture report, we've got problems with Russia. So gradually...
Got the sieges and the terror attacks in Pakistan.
Gradually drifted under the radar. But we just wanted to reassure you that the al-Swedi public inquiry is indeed a public inquiry. We say meet the people running it. So we've had the inquiry chairman, Sir Forbes. We've also got Cecilia French, secretary. She was a civil servant from the Home Office, so clearly comes from an independent background there.
And the public,
but she's done a lot of work in security and counter-terrorism, but also policing, crime reduction, criminal justice, sentencing, and she just happens to have been private secretary to 2 ministers of state. So she's hot straight out of the general public. And if we just go on, we've got Nicola Inston, solicitor, Doughty Street Chambers. She joined the government, she joined the government legal service, so she's clearly independent. Jonathan Acton Davis QC, researcher, Deputy High Court Judge, so he's into the judge. Recently acted for the UK government in mediation and trials arising from the foot and mouth outbreak. So he's independent of government. Jason Beer QC, second counsel to the inquiry, where South Eastern Circuit. He's works with the Crown on common law. So he's.
Can I just leave that?
Just
slide?
one to go, and I'll let you in there. And then we've got this lady, and if you check her, you'll find she's not exactly independent either. So this isn't a public inquiry. This is a government inquiry investigating itself.
Yeah. Can you just put that slide back up? Now, Nicola Eastman, it says she was a senior lawyer at the IPCC.
Yes.
And 3 inquiries based in Northern Ireland. She most recently engaged as deputy solicitor at the Leveson inquiry.
Well, this is true. Well, obviously, you want people who've got broad experience as to how you're going to control the press and media. So just drift them across, working with Sir David Bell, Common Purpose trainee, of course, drift across. So don't worry if you are there in Iraq and you're worried about what sort of inquiry the British are going to produce. They're going to produce an independent public inquiry completely run by the British government.
Right.
It
just gives such faith in this country.
It's a disgrace, isn't it?
Kay, I like this story. I really do. And I just hope it doesn't get sort of overrun by corporations and government and dodgy people. Okay, this guy, Adam Smith, he's 29, he's from Leeds, he's a chef. And he was fed up with the level of food waste, especially by supermarkets. So he decided to set up a little cafe with food that supermarkets were about to throw away. In the cafe, Adam makes stews, casseroles, soups and cakes and allows customers to pay only what they can afford. And if they actually haven't got any money to pay, you'll just ask them to wash some dishes. In 10 months since the cafe opened, Adam has served 10,000 people on 20 tonnes of unwanted food and raised 30,000. Adam's idea has inspired 47 pay-as-you-feel cafes to open. And now the concept is being picked up in America, Brazil and across Europe. So I like this guy.
I'm going to say I like it too.
You are cynical. Go on.
I like it too. I'm going to say we're going to give this gentleman the benefit of doubt. He's out there, we're doing the right thing. He's trying to help people. The bit that I'm interested in is that what he's doing is using food which supermarkets have thrown away to give to people who can't feed themselves. Now, what he's doing, I'm going to say I believe is for the right reason, but the message is that people who are out there on the streets, homeless, can't feed themselves, no money. Do they get the best food on the table? No. They get the stuff the supermarkets are thrown away.
Fair dues, but it's better than it being thrown away because half of these sell-by dates, they don't need to be there. They don't need to be on them. They're still
I
fresh.
totally agree with you. So we could point a big finger at the supermarkets and the billions of pounds profits they're making, and then all this food is thrown away.
Yeah.
So we're going to say, we think this man is doing the right thing.
Cute.
Brace yourselves. This was sent through to us this morning, and it appears that penalties for smuggling Bibles and other offences in Saudi Arabia are going to be met with the death penalty. And a Christian website pointing out here, death penalty for smuggling Bibles. Now the question mark is because when they've actually asked the Saudis if this report is correct, they're not getting a denial, they're simply getting no answer. So there are a number of Christian websites at the moment that have picked up on this story and saying, isn't it interesting that Britain is just quite happy in who it has international relations with, and has it really now got to the stage where in some countries, if you're caught with a Bible in your hand, you're going to receive the death penalty. We'll just leave it there. And
Can I just add on to this, though? In that Washington Post article on, what was it on? The Putin, where they're saying checkmate, down the side, other stories, top stories, there was one saying that evangelicals and other religions and races, majority of feel that torture is justified. That was coming from the Washington Post.
We did discuss that, didn't we?
We did
briefly
discuss
before the news. We'll pick up on it again, but very interesting that as the Senate report on torture clearly shows that the American establishment has been involved in torture, out or drifted the little study. Well, actually, we all think it's okay.
Yeah.
So very deep, cynical stuff. And what's it to do with it's a smokescreen to trying to protect the political figures who carried this out. Yeah, well, we're going to end on a happy story,
I think this is a really lovely, really touched me. Dominique Harrison Benson, she is a 22-year-old student at Central Lancashire University, went for a night out with her friends, realised she'd lost her bank card and couldn't get home. And a homeless man, I can't think of his name now, I think it was known as Steve, I think, approached her and offered her his last £3 so she could get into a taxi and get home safely. She didn't take the money, but she was so touched by the man's act of kindness, she put out a status and messages in groups to try and find him. Well, apparently he isn't the only Dominique isn't the only person that this Steve has helped. Other people were saying that they'd come across this gentleman. He returns people's wallets to them. He offers people his hats and scarves and gloves so people can keep warm. Well, Dominique last night, I believe, spent the night on the streets with Steve, and so far she has raised £12,500 for him so he can afford to get his own flat. Apparently he lost his home through no fault of his own. He can't get a job because he has no address. He is now living on the streets of Preston, and she has now raised £12,500. That was of yesterday, I believe, and hopefully there'll be more. But I thought that was a really nice thing
story.
to do.
And of course, it just shows us what life could be like if we were all doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And what is the government agenda trying to get us to do? Of course, do the wrong thing. Prize today clearly won by the BBC. So the commercial arm of the BBC producing music talking about suicides, which just happens to come onto the streets at Christmas time. But according to their spokesman, well, we did actually produce it in October. So that's okay then.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, that's it for today. We will be back at 1 o'clock tomorrow.
Will we? In what state?
We will be here. We'll be doing the job. And I also wanted to say, I think I said the next week we will be doing something. Of course, I've forgotten the next week. We will, of course, be away for Christmas.
New Year on the 5th, I think.
So we look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Bye-bye.